Let's talk about that. I always love understanding the root cause. And as you were speaking, I thought, wow, we're living through a stressful time period. Welcome to the Fusionary Health podcast. I have a special guest in store for you, Jane Hogan. She's the wellness engineer, and she blends proven leading edge science and ancient spiritually inspired practices to help people release chronic pain using the mind, body, and breath to become empowered creators of their health. Her personal experience of reversing crippling rheumatoid arthritis using natural solutions inspired her to leave a 30-year engineering career and become a functional medicine certified health coach, certified yoga teacher, speaker, and wellness educator. And Jane has helped thousands of people to release their chronic pain naturally. She hosts the Wellness by Design podcast, and she has an empowering medicine message that's been featured on so many different platforms. So welcome, Jane, to the podcast. Welcome back, actually. You are a second-time guest on my podcast.
Thank you, Shivani. I love being a guest on your podcast. I love your energy, and we have great conversations when you've been on my podcast as well. So
yes, for sure. It's been so lovely knowing you because it's rare to meet people who understand how much we have power through so many different angles when it comes to our health. Sometimes I'll check in with my body. I've been doing that this week, and I'm like, body, why are you suddenly looking like you're gaining weight around the middle? Body, why are you doing that? What's happening? And my body sends an answer through, and it's like, do you know what you just put me through for 3 days trying to finish citations in a book? And I realize I'm inflamed, and I've just got to address it. And that's easy to do, but it starts with that conversation. So will you kick us off with why you do what you do and what led you to embarking on this work?
Well, you mentioned that I had crippling rheumatoid arthritis. So I turned 50, and in 3 months, I went from being strong, healthy, vibrant woman to being nearly disabled from chronic pain, which was later diagnosed as rheumatoid arthritis. And I've been healthy all my life, really. I always felt like I was a healthy as a horse kind of person. And so this really took me by surprise. But the year before this had happened, had been the most stressful year of my life. My mother had died suddenly. She was my best friend. And then I was the executor for her estate, so I had to deal with all that. I have 2 older siblings, a younger sibling. There's a whole lot around that. If anyone has ever been in that situation, you know that, things don't always go smoothly. And it had been a rough year, and I wasn't sleeping. I had anxiety all the time. And so I kind of knew that stress had something to do with it. And I was at this rock bottom point, Shivani, when I was like, I didn't know what was happening to me. It was before the diagnosis. I didn't know what was happening to me. All I knew is I was like, my husband had gone to work. I thought, all I need is vacation. I'd finished with my mother's estate. I thought, I just need vacation and I'm going to be fine. And I actually got worse. And I was lying in my bed one morning. My husband had gone to work, and I was like, just crying, like, here, the pain's here again. And how had my life come to this? And what's my future going to be? I couldn't even look forward to the future anymore. And I had this thought that if that's the way my life is going to be, I'm ready to be done. I just want to check out. And the next instant, I heard a voice. It's going to sound kind of funny, but I heard a voice that wasn't my voice that said, this is not how your life is going to turn out. You are going to figure this out, and you're going to teach other people. And so from that moment on, I was still in pain, but I had the deep inner knowing that I would get my health back. And then it was my mission then to teach other people. And so it took me a couple of years to get my health back, but eventually I did. And then I knew that my calling wasn't to be an engineer anymore. I had this other calling that was really speaking to my heart. So I left 30 years, walked away from my engineering career, and became a functional medicine certified health coach. And now I just want to help get rid of pain in the world. 20% of the adult population has chronic pain. 65% of people over the age of 65 suffer with chronic pain. We have an opioid crisis. There's something we can do. People don't know how much power they have. Just coming back to the first thing you said, people have the power to change their physical body. Deepak Chopra, I remember hearing him say, the mind creates the body. And I was like, what? I think he means that figuratively, but no, he means it literally.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that journey. I find so many of us in the health and wellness space came from a place of so much pain and devastation with our health. And when we finally understood how to turn the ship around, we're like, how does everyone not know that there's an entirely different way of living? And then when you live in the health and wellness world, you're surrounded by people like us, and we all have our subspecialties. And so I end up going to conferences, and my team is always like, please don't buy the entire expo hall. Okay. You're there to work. And so I always go to conferences and I'm like, but I really want the red light, and I really want and I always say to myself, that is not what you're here for. You're here to network and do your job. And so I leave with limited toys, but I always think to myself, and my check-in with myself is, as an Ayurvedic practitioner, what is the toolkit that works best for me? Because just because people are talking about it out there as a tool doesn't mean it's the best tool. And coming back to what you just said, 20% of people in the United States, was that the statistic? Suffer from chronic pain. Over 65% of people above 65. So anyone who's listening, I'm 45. That means the entire, out of my friend and close sibling group, that's our parent generation. My mom is 70 this year. I can tell you she has chronic pain. She's had arthritis for years, and I flew her into Florida to do double, not at the same time, but back-to-back knee replacements and all these things. But pain becomes a constant companion, and many don't realize the level of tools you have. And for me, I, of course, am the founder of Fusionary formulas, so I want everyone to take turmeric for it. But I also realized a few years into owning Fusionary, I created a pill for the problem. I totally did. It works. It's good. But guys, you shouldn't need this pill every day forever. Let's talk about everything else you can do to naturally deal with pain. And then you keep this around when needed. Like, that's how we should be using all herbal supports and supplements. And that's when I really got on my high horse about, let's talk the natural solutions. So will you guide us on how you teach people how to get out of that chronic pain that I'm sure is really bringing down their quality of life?
Well, what's happening with a lot of people is, and it's not their fault, it's because of our culture and what we've learned. We have grown up with a paradigm that there's always a physical reason for pain.
Sure.
And I've come to realize through all the research, and that neuroscience is proving it, that chronic pain, a lot of forms, in fact, most forms of chronic pain, there's not really a physical reason for it. It's actually the brain turning on protection, and it's learned pain pathways. And this goes for arthritis, things that we're told are normal, part of aging. Oh, we've done an X-ray or an MRI and you've got arthritis there. So that's the reason for the pain. We know now that there are people can have arthritis, they have no pain. People can have bulge discs, things like that in their back, and have no pain. In fact, the majority of people have these so-called abnormalities, yet they have no pain. So that can't be the reason for the pain. However, if you have stress in your life, like I did, something goes on, you get a pain somewhere, you go to your doctor, you get an MRI or an X-ray, and then you're told this is the reason for your pain. That just keeps reinforcing that pain. And what we know now is that, I've heard some people say, and I don't know if this is an actual statistic or not, but about 85% of chronic pain cases can be resolved using a mind-body approach. And so we're not saying that the pain isn't real, certainly feels real. And if you're in pain, that's real pain, but it's being turned up and can be turned down as well by the brain. We can teach the brain a new way. So basically all that's happened is our brain is really good at learning, and it's learned a pathway for pain. And the areas of the brain for emotional stress are the same areas of the brain for physical pain. And so emotional stress can turn on physical pain.
That's a profound statement.
It is. It is.
Emotional stress can turn on physical pain. It makes total sense. I am writing a book right now, and in a few we're going to share about your book. And in there, I did write one whole chapter on stress, because a lot of times as women, and I'm sure there's men listening as well, but I know because I am a woman that we carry a lot of stressors. And even this week, I was like, every morning I'm waking up and my feet hurt. And I'm walking around, I'm like, my feet hurt. I'm walking down the stairs funny. And normally that's plantar fasciitis. In this moment, it doesn't feel like the full-blown plantar fasciitis I had last year. So I keep tuning in. I'm like, when did I cause this? When did this start? What is happening? Why is this happening? Mm-hmm. It's not like I've been running. I haven't even gone for like 10,000 steps or walking a lot. Something is up, and I'm trying to calibrate to what is the issue. But now that you say emotional stress, I'm like, oh, that answers so many questions. I've put myself under so much stress in the last week. And it's interesting that that's a powerful connection you just made. If we go through moments, like we just went through some family drama in my family around like a event we were trying to plan. So if there's emotional stress and it just lights up physical stress, then physical stress that you may have already dealt with, managed, and moved on from, that might be your weak point that just lights back up.
Exactly. It's a neural pathway that was already formed. Yeah. So it's the easiest for the brain to go there first. And I would say even going back further, plantar fasciitis may also not have a physical cause. So like pain is sort of a very downstream. Before that, if you think about if our brain doesn't feel safe, if our nervous system is saying things aren't safe here, which is what happens when we're stressed, bracing, tightening up, that's part of the protection. So it can start with that. And so even, I mean, when I looked back, actually, I said I was healthy as a horse, but when I looked back over my life, I had started going to a chiropractor in my 20s because I had, tight shoulders and I was a swimmer. I always had rotator cuff and tendonitis and things like that. I mean, I didn't know then that these are all signs that things that the brain can turn on to say, all right, we're not feeling safe. And it happens even before that, with our behaviors. I love talking about this, the behaviors that I see and show up in people with chronic pain. So we can talk about that because that shows up even first. We have behaviors, and then that can, if we don't resolve the stress, then that can lead to physical issues.
Let's talk about that. I always love understanding the root cause. And as you were speaking, I thought, wow, we're living through a stressful time period. COVID, stressful. 2020 was really stressful. And I think pandemic alone dysregulated so many people because it created, on top of an already stressed out world, I think we forget, but pre-2020, everyone was like, 2020 vision, 2020 is going to be amazing. And then 2020, the world came crumbling down. We were like, we didn't even know that was possible to have that moment or time period really that happened. I live in Florida. So for us, it felt like a blip. But for the rest of the world, that really was locked down in a lot of ways. So I can only imagine what that started. And then have we truly healed and come out of it? And or we're going through yet another year of a lot of stressors. So I wonder if chronic pain and chronic inflammation are just going to like 10x and keep exponentially growing because of what's happened and how that has shifted our behavior. Even I myself, I'm like, I sit too much. My whole job, I've built my company around me getting to sit here and either be on a podcast or interview amazing humans and learn from them. But what does that mean for my physical body? It's actually kind of bad. So I've had to start building in so many new habits. Walk in the morning, walk in the evening, stretch in between, get up and move. So I'm curious, what are those behaviors that are those root causes?
Well, I would say they go back even further than that. And it's not even the behaviors themselves aren't root causes. So So I usually talk about these behaviors of protection. So on page 31 of my book, actually, where I talk about the behaviors of, and they're actually personality behavioral adaptations is how Gabor Mate in his book, When the Body Says No, refers to them. They're behavioral adaptations that we create to deal with stress. And some of them go way back to childhood. So it's things like people pleasing, perfectionism, hypervigilance, hyperindependence, inability to say no and set boundaries, overly polite, never want to say, oh, no, I want to go to this restaurant. No, you would never say it. Go, oh, whatever you want to do. So it's all of these types of behavioral adaptations. And when I'm teaching, I'll always say, who here has some of these behavioral adaptations? And I see people saying all of them, most of them, because it's a form of protection. So if you think about it, people pleasing, perfectionism, these types of things are our way of protecting ourselves. So if we were little and we got some kind of message that, we did something and, maybe we had big trauma, but it could be mild trauma. I had an older sibling that teased me. And so I started off my life not really feeling safe in my family. So gosh, it was no wonder I was a people pleaser, perfectionist, hyper independence, hypervigilance, and all those things. So we create these behavioral adaptations because we can't fight, we can't flee. We have to find a way to be safe in this family unit. And the way we can do that is to make people like us. Do the things that we're going to get praise for, and then we'll be safe. I mean, none of this is conscious, Shivani, right? It's all subconscious. And so as we go through life, a lot of those things do serve us well. I did well in engineering, and in my job, I always got praise because I always worked so hard and I did all the things. And, but in the long run, now I can see that it was just my subconscious mind starting to protect me. And then over the long term, because it didn't really get resolved, I had this simmering nervous system dysregulation of not feeling safe. And it goes with people with chronic pain. There are studies showing that everyone with chronic pain has vagal tone dysfunction. Sure. And the vagal tone is the parasympathetic, the rest and relax, rejuvenate, repair state of the nervous system. So when, if you're in chronic pain, that's not getting activated because you're chronically stuck in the sympathetic state. Sure. And so that, you can kind of cope for a while with that, but your bucket's already full. So then you get some big stressor, like I had with my mother dying and all that. And then that's the straw that breaks the camel's back, or the drop that fills up the bucket. And I see this over and over again with the people I talk to. I'll always say, what was going on before this major pain started? What was going on in your life the 6 months to a year before it happened? And was there any stress? Always stress.
Yeah, always it's something big that happens that kind of sets us off, but we underestimate the amount of work we needed to do beforehand. I think of it as stress resilience, but you're talking about something bigger. You're talking about a bucket that's full for a number of reasons, many of which are unconscious, and we aren't even bringing awareness to that. So that bucket will oftentimes stay full because we're not even bringing the awareness. So before we go any further, will you share the name of your book so everyone knows? And then share what it is that what was your main goal in creating this book for the world?
Oh, yes, thank you. It's called Pain Free on Purpose. Use your mind to heal your body and get your life back. And it's my pain to purpose story, but it's also a step-by-step plan to help people. Really, I'm talking about nervous system dysregulation a lot. So if we want to heal, we need to shift back into that regulated state. And it's really a matter of habit, of changing habits, not necessarily breaking old habits, but creating new ones. So the old ones just wither away. And so the book is broken into 3 parts. The first part is really about, I talk about the missing puzzle piece in chronic pain treatment, which is, what we're talking about here, that people are looking at, let's cut it, hide it, cover it up instead of the real root cause, which is this nervous system dysregulation. And then the biggest mistake people are making is that they keep repeating the patterns that keep the nervous system dysregulated. I don't want to deal with that past. I mean, when I came up against this, I was like, wow, I'm 50 years old. I should be over this teasing from when I was, 5.
Sure.
But the thing is that it lingers. And I realized that I was hanging on to a lot of resentment about that. And I really had to do some forgiveness. And so that is part of the plan as well. So there's the missing, the biggest mistake is repeating these patterns. And then the simple solution is install new patterns, install new habits that will shift the nervous system to regulation. And, it's not complicated. It's just, and it's not a secret. We all know these things that help create calm, but we just don't do it. No. And so what I've got in part 2 of the book is a step-by-step plan for implementing these habits so that you begin to shift. And you'll keep shifting the nervous system into a regulated state. And then the part 3 is like living this life, how you live this life, because I'm not over the patterns that I created, my entire life. I will, when I get stressed, I will shift back to some of those. And then I have to remind myself, okay, all right, come back again. Let's go back to these lifestyle habits. And so, the book lays out a beautiful plan for that.
Nice. I thought of 2 things when you said that. One is when I leave yoga, I always feel so good. Mm-hmm. And if I can just not talk to anyone or interact with anyone, I can usually hold that bliss state for a long time. But inevitably, either my husband wants to call me and make a plan. Where are you? What is happening? Which kid needs to go what direction? I'm like, oh, you killed the bliss. Or my bestie wants to go with me to raw juice and we get our green juice and we just talk. But in talking, because we're both mothers raising kids at the same time in the same schools, we're like, okay, what's next? And it just shifts me right out of that mode, and I can feel it. I can feel the shift. And every time I think, wow, what a different world we would have if we could all just go to yoga and hold that incredible feeling in our body, in our being, in our emotional state. I just want to be a yogi every day, all day, and hold that type of expansive, abundant, joyful, peace, like blissful feeling, instead of the one that I click to. And I feel it like a click, like, okay, I'm back to Shivani, back to accomplishing, back to my responsibilities, back to my duties. And so it's interesting what you're saying. It feels like we're so used to being the way we are on the track we are. And we don't realize that the thoughts, patterns, emotions, and feelings that lead to us being that way are the problem. And so it's the work of understanding how to disconnect, and that's probably not the best word for it, but move off of that track into another that will get us to not sit in fight or flight all day.
Yeah. And I would say also discovering how you can carry that feeling in whatever you're doing. Right. So it's really teaching your body. So I say use your mind to heal your body. It's really using your mind and your body together, because our body is constantly giving us signals of when it doesn't feel safe. But when you follow the plan, which I call it the design blueprint, I love engineering terms, right? Yeah. So the word design is the 6 steps: nice. Desire, explore, surrender, integrate, generate, navigate. And then there's 2 habits per step. And it's really about the day-to-day, moment by moment, keep coming back to feeling calm and really practicing these tools, because the more you get used to that being your norm, like imagine that bliss feeling you're talking about, imagine that is more your norm, you can quickly notice when you're shifting out. And so, then you're not going too long. I actually was coaching yesterday in one of my programs, and one of my students was saying how she had, there was some kind of argument or some kind of conflict in the family, and she, had to like kind of shut herself up in her room, and she couldn't use any of the tools. But then it was like she said, about a day, and then she was like, okay, no, I'm going to come back to these tools. And I said, okay, where were you before you started practicing all this? And she said, I used to be like that. I would like dive down for weeks or months. So the
Wow.
thing is, it's not that you never have those times. It's just that you don't sit in them for so long. You catch yourself sooner. And that's what we want, because the sooner we can shift back to calm, rest, digest, repair, the more our body can stay in that healed state or healing state.
Absolutely. You know, this week I was working on my book and I had to find citations. And I am a researcher. I know how to find citations, but sometimes it feels like hell because someone's saying, okay, you already pulled 250 citations, but we need newer ones. We need many more, all these things. So for 3 days, I sat in that, frustrated and irritated that I had to do it. So I had two research assistants and we were all in it between ChatGPT and another GPT I have for purely for clinical research and science. And afterwards, I was talking to my business partner at work and I said, you know, this is just too much work. I don't know why I signed up for this idea. This is just too much. And then the next day, it took me a minute. Sometimes I have to really self-care and bring myself back into my aligned vibration. The next day I showed up at work and I said, you know what? The book was about love and impact. I can take a lot of things and turn them into torture, or I can let them be about the pure intention. My business is that. It's purely about impact and love and serving. The book is that. And if I hold that, nothing tortures me because I signed up for impact and joy, and that is my fuel to do good. Hi, I'm Dr. Shivani Gupta, and I created Fusionary Formulas because I believe everyone deserves a natural way to support their body's health. If you struggle with joint discomfort or stiffness, our turmeric gold delivers powerful curcumin in a form your body can truly absorb. It's science-backed with the highest quality ingredients and designed to support your body's natural inflammatory response. Take the next step in your health and wellness journey today. Visit fusionaryformulas.com and use code Fusionary Health for 15% off. Fusionary Formulas, ancient wisdom, modern science, maximum impact. But it was a mindset shift that I had to take. It took me a while to come out from under it. And I thought, this is the shift we all need to learn to practice making constantly, because we can have a habit or a tendency to turn anything into too much torture, too much work, pain, which is what you're talking about, versus like light, easy, effortless, joyful, good. So how do you guide your clients in that? Because sometimes I have people in my family sometimes where I'm like, gosh, why do you always click into that mode? Why is that always the reactionary place you're coming from? Why is that always the reaction? Why can't we practice the shift? And you're right, as we age, we think we should have it by now. But I think it's always a learning and a growing and an evolution in practice. And I'm so curious about these tools you teach because it sounds like it helps us get out of our wired patterns that are causing us pain.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's huge because the awareness is what's key, right? Like for most of my life, I didn't have a conscious thought. It's like whatever came in was what I thought. I wasn't intentional about the thoughts I was choosing. And we know that, well, they say like 95% of our thoughts and behaviors are on repeat. So if we want a different result, we have to change that. So sometimes I think about this as an engineer, I'm like a systems thinker. So like the big picture view. So if we want a different output, remember, the mind is creating the body. So if we want a different output, we have to change the input. We can't keep repeating the input that we were putting in. So making people super aware of that.
Yeah.
And really understanding that with those inputs, we're creating neural networks in the brain. So this type of pain, it's got a lot of different names, but the one I really like is neuroplastic pain, because we know that the brain has neuroplasticity, which means it can learn, right? And so the brain is just learned pain. And but the brain is great at learning. So we just give it something new to learn. And so one of the really big things I'm teaching a lot is like, what are your thoughts when you experience pain? If you're having fear thoughts, which is totally normal. Like I had, oh my gosh, what's this going to mean for my future? I can't live in this house. I can't do all these things. Well, that's going to shift. That's going to create neural pathways of fear.
True.
Brain pays attention to fear. We're wired for that. It's a survival thing. And so then it's going to turn on more pain for protection because like there's more, it's getting worse here, right? So we get stuck in this pain, fear cycle. So we want to break the cycle. We have to change. So it starts off with some really simple tools like breath work. Or like I say breath work, if someone is already has a meditation practice, well, that can be, but it's just like creating space for calm in your day, at least 3 times a day to start with. And then the other thing is creating a vision of your healed self and noticing how good that feels. And so we know visualization works, actually can change the physical muscles and so on, right? It's so amazing. And so we're teaching, all right, let's teach our brain new patterns of thinking. The brain learns through repetition. We have to repeat it. That's where people often fall down on their own is, how do I repeat this? How do I have accountability? So I've got some tools in the book, things like checklists and I've got like a calendar thing. I got a lot of different things in there to help people set themselves up for repetition, repeating these tools. And we just do one at a time. I suggest like a week to 28 days at least for each of these habits until they become easier to do than not do. And I talk a lot about the habit formation and the science behind that.
Sure.
To help people be successful. We know that habits, they need to be, if we want to do a new one, it has to be easy and obvious. It has to be attractive. It has to be satisfying. So we have to have like some rewards and things in there. So when you understand the science behind habit formation, it helps set people up for success.
I like that. I think it's important to teach that because otherwise we're teaching them something, but we're not setting them up for future success. Mm-hmm. I remember I stayed at Hippocrates Health Institute with my family. I wanted to really help my mom with reversing her diabetes. And they were very successful because that place is built for reversing inflammation and doing a lot of the things you're talking about. And I remember their job in every lecture was to teach you how to take it home. They weren't like, we're doing this to you here. You should come back here every 3 months. They're like, no, we're setting you up for life. And so I love that you do that. I love that you're showing people the habit stack understanding that kind of applies to everything in their lives. I have so many people who reach out to me. They're like, I love your supplements. They work. I just forget to take them. And I'm like, no worries. I totally understand. Even I forget sometimes. And so lately I've been doing the work of, what is the reward? What is the benefit? What are you stacking it onto? Is it breakfast, lunch, or dinner? Like, let's tie it to something. Because if it's not anchored in, it's not going to happen. Right. And I love that you just mentioned, 3 times a day. So what you teach as breath work 3 times a day to calm the system, which I'm going to assume is for vagal toning. Like, let's drop into parasympathetic. Let's get out of sympathetic. Yep. Let's just build that habit. Because once you have the habit, you can click out of stress mode anytime. You just have to have the kind of build the muscle for it. Mm-hmm. I teach that as tea time is me time. I tell everyone, make a cup of tea and just sit, because by sipping that tea, we're going to create vagal toning. We're going to calm ourselves. It's a ritual, so that calms you down too. And so when it comes to vagal toning, will you explain to the audience today the importance of it? Because they may not realize vagus nerve vagal toning is rest and digest. We're not going to digest our food. We're not going to assimilate the benefits. Mm-hmm. If we're in stress mode, we're going to stay in inflamed mode. We're going to stay in fight or flight. And I mean, to me, not having vagal tone means we're going to be burning through our adrenals. Like, there's a lot of punishments. I think of it more physically because I always think about the physical health piece, but mentally, emotionally as well. We're not going to be our true selves, most aligned selves, if we're lacking that vagal tone.
I love what you just said about alignment. And I know earlier you mentioned love. And I just want to bring that spiritual aspect into this, because I believe that we have come from love, that our true essence is love. And that has gotten blocked somehow through our life experiences. And it's because that full true essence of ourselves as love isn't fully coming through, that the body then can begin to break down. The physical body begins to break down in whatever way. And it's through the nervous system. Like I believe we are spiritual beings having a spiritual experience in a human body, expressing through a human nervous system. And so, often on the front end, I'm talking about nervous system a lot, but I really do love coming back. And even as much as I say that the nervous system is a root cause, I think if we went back even further, it would be not loving yourself completely is the root cause. So if we're not loving ourselves completely and we get stuck in a state of things aren't safe because I don't love me and other people don't love me, then we're going to be in that sympathetic state, and the parasympathetic is not going to get activated. And so that vagus nerve, which is the wandering nerve that goes from all of our organs down here up to our brain, we know that most of the signals, about 80%, they say, they're going upwards, not downwards.
Correct.
That vagus nerve doesn't get activated. Like a muscle, it loses tone. So if it loses tone, it gets harder and harder to activate the parasympathetic state. So then we can really get stuck. I mean, there's other states as well, but just to keep it simple, we'll say the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. So we get stuck. And so we have to teach and exercise that vagus nerve in order to give it the opportunity to learn how to activate again. Because when it stops activating, those signals aren't getting through, and digestion stops working well, our hormones stop working well, our musculoskeletal system doesn't work so well, the whole immune system stops working. So all of these things begin to break down, and there's all kinds of downstream effects. Like, chronic pain is one of them, but it could also be psoriasis. It could be diabetes. It could be any one of these. And so we have to practice and activate that vagus nerve. So the first thing I teach is breath work as the quickest way. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Just like it can be as easy. And, I love all the great breath works that we learn in yoga, but it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be really simple. But the thing is, we have to do it, right? We have to do it, make time for it. And also, I think a lot of people, there's just so much dysfunctional breathing. We know that out there. And so people need to learn how to breathe in a way that's supporting their body again, in order to get those nutrients around to all of the cells in our body, to get very physical again. So it's very important that we do that. And then just creating calm with our emotions, changing those repetitive thoughts. There's a lot, so much we can do. No one else can do that. That's the other thing I love. No one else can do it. So some people might feel like, what? I've got to do this. I just want to go to the doctor and then fix me. But really, the only person that can do this work is you. And I would say the fact that you have chronic pain or another illness is evidence of how powerful your thoughts are.
Right. It's true. A lot of times we want to go to the doctor and we want the prescription and we want the solution. Yep. And I learned in my very early 20s that piece of paper was not the source of me building my health. It was actually quite the opposite. It was the source of all my damage. And once I understood that, I was like, okay, I have to go figure this out. I will go figure this out because I have to feel differently in my body. This current plan is not working at all for me. And so I love that you brought up the spiritual piece, because I was hanging out with a circle of women the other day, teaching them about Ayurveda. It was a few months back. And at the end, the leader of the circle, she asked me, she said, is Ayurveda spiritual? And I thought, oh my gosh, have I not been teaching this right? Have I not been explaining that? Have I just skipped over that? Because I talk so much about physical health. I even skip over mental, emotional. I don't talk in that space as much. I said the whole goal is our physical, mental, and emotional alignment to reach our spiritual enlightenment. The whole point is vibrant health. And I said, I use the word vibrant because it's our vibration that we're creating.
Yes.
When I feel incredible, my vibration shifts, and then every single thing I want in the world comes to me. Everything I want to happen in the world around me happens as well. It's the vibration I create. And I very much believe in that. So every single day I'm tuning in to where are things not working? Let me shift those. And where can I do the work to stay in my most joyful state, my most highest state?
Mm-hmm.
And that's always the dream with what I create is if I can get you out of pain, if I can get you to not be inflamed, if I can show you a different way of being, you're going to feel so good. Then I find I have all this excess energy to give. But the minute I have pain, my world shrinks really fast. My world goes to, I'm in pain. I have to take care of me. And the minute I can resolve that pain, I'm back to that really expansive feeling of, I'm here to serve, I'm here to impact. And so I'm curious if you have some stories around lives that have shifted because they were finally able to get out of that pain state that kept them so internal and inward and allowed them to really shift outward and expand into their true calling, their true purpose. In Hinduism or Buddhism, we call that their dharma, like their purpose. And step into that, because I would imagine that that's the goal, right? Is let's come back into what's possible in the world as opposed to just inwards.
Yeah, because when people have pain, their world shrinks.
Yeah.
It really shrinks, and their relationships are suffering. Their soul is suffering. There's just so much that's happening with them. And I love you talked there about vibration because, quantum physics is actually proving what the ancient spiritual traditions have been saying all along, that we are made of energy. Everything is energy. Energy is vibration. So, and emotions are vibrations in the body. So if we are having, we all know what feeling love feels like. That feeling of love feels so good. Well, every single cell in our body is picking up that feeling as well. And likewise, if we are feeling frustration or jealousy or anger or all of those things, then that's a very different vibration in the body. And we feel constricted and we don't feel expanded. And of course, the cells are picking up on that too and responding that like things aren't good out here. It's not safe. So we can really change our vibration. But you asked about some transformation stories. I'm just thinking of a recent one with Kathy, who was in my 12-week program, and she had also been in my membership for a while. And when I offered the 12-week program, it's more like focused. All right, I'm here to support you every step of the way. And so she joined that. And 4 weeks into this 12-week program, I was asking her about her pain, and she said, "What pain?" Totally gone after years. And now she's a coach herself, and she's like planning on how to start. She's in her 50s and she's starting a new business, and she's so excited about life again. And then I've seen other people, like their relationships improve because they're not in pain anymore, but also you learn about yourself actually doing this. It's not just about the physical, like everything's intertwined. Your abundance, your relationships, your physical health are all related. So often what we see is, people that have pain are also having difficult relationships, are also having financial problems. It's not like this is not everybody, but it's very common. So when you improve one area, you're improving all areas. So yeah, I mean, some people talking about money just starting to come into their lives, or their relationships being resolved. And like someone who, I remember the story about Penny, who said she had an estranged brother, and she's like, I'm not going to say anything or do anything. I'm just going to, because I always say you get to choose what your relationship is. Even if you don't see them, you get to choose your feeling around it. And then her brother showed up again in her life. And so it almost seems miraculous, but I believe miracles are normal. So when you're in the right vibration. So really I kind of think of a program as not just a physical health, but it's also like a personal development, and it's a spiritual program as well. It's all like intertwined together.
Absolutely. And I think we need those tune-ups occasionally, regardless of if we're in pain or not. I mean, as you're speaking, I'm like, my mom needs this. I know other people who need this. I could probably use this. It's not like I don't hold patterns, right? And at different stages of the game. For me, I'm in entrepreneurship mode and I'm raising teens and preteens. So as you spoke, I thought, well, I'm looking at these two children and I can already see patterns. I can already see where that same behavior 20 years from now, maybe 10 years from now, when one of them wants to go to med school, could be a bucket full moment that is a lot. And for me, I'm having one of those years where I signed up for a lot and my whole system is like, what? Why? How? Don't you know what you teach? So I've had one of those, I had to have what I call a come to Jesus moment with myself, where I was like, the whole book you just wrote was about so much self-love and self-care. And if you're going to throw that all out, no wonder you're not going to be happy. So you have to find the beautiful in between, or it's Shivani who falls apart. And then there was no point in anything we're doing here. So I just wonder if the book is titled around pain, but it really applies to all of us at different stages.
Yeah.
Because we can kind of sense sometimes when our bucket is getting too full and our reactions to everyone around us aren't at their most ideal.
Yeah.
And that's when I think anytime you hit those stress thresholds or those moments in your life where everything feels like a lot, that's the time to pause and say, I need to do some spiritual work. I need to do some personal development. I need to make sure I'm clearing the bucket so that we're ready for what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Like in my family right now, some of the elders are passing away. And it's been like 4 deaths in 4 years, or 3 in 4 years, or 4 in 3 years. I don't know what. But all of a sudden we're looking at each other as sister-in-laws and we're like, wow, the elder generation's aging. We should enjoy them. We should spend time with them. So that's becoming a renewed focus. And also, how are we going to kind of manage the family through all of this, the kids and all of that? So I just think that what you're talking about feels like something we all need, not just those in pain.
It's purposeful, right? Like the Pain Free on Purpose, it was sort of about my story, my pain to purpose story, my turning my pain into purpose, but also about the people living purposefully, living intentionally, rather than being reactive. And so I think that's a big part of it. Like, what do I want in my life? And some of the later habits in the blueprint are about that. They're about like, what am I doing for creativity and joy? Who am I spending my time with? What am I doing to learn, grow, and expand? These are all parts of us, parts of our soul that really are calling to be expressed. And especially if we've been in pain, a lot of times people are just put their life on hold until they get this figured out. And even though they may still be in pain, they also need some of these things in their life too to help shift them out. And it seems like it's hard to do. Well, I got to wait till I'm out of pain. But I see it over and over again that when you start shifting into, I just had a call this morning with my membership program. And one lady's like, I've been working so hard. I've been doing all the things. And like, I think you need to stop working hard. And I think you need to start having some fun. Yeah. What are you doing for fun? What's fun for you? And just like pulling in that little bit of play, curiosity, that's part of our soul expression as well. So I think that's really important.
Absolutely. As you spoke earlier, I thought, because I had my father-in-law go through knee replacement surgery in front of me, and then I had my mother go through it in front of me. We have a surgeon in the family here in South Florida who's really great at orthopedics. So everyone flies in here to do their surgeries or their eye surgeries. I end up housing a lot of people for their surgery. And I thought to myself after my mom's surgery, wow, why is she still in pain? Like, we did everything. She should just walk great. I told her, you should become a runner. Like this, we got you new knees. Let's go. And I realized you don't change the pattern. You don't change the behavior. And if you don't change the behavior, what was the point of going through such big surgeries? You're in the same boat. And so I just think that as I sit here from my vantage point, I have so many clients and customers and friends whose parents are in their 70s or their 80s. And we're all looking at them like, okay, I'm not here to parent you, but I happen to know a lot about health. And so I'm always like, could we? So I'm always trying to like educate. I'm not the right person to educate. So I'm always like, can you please read this book? Can you please meet this person? Can you do this coaching program? I think this is such a wonderful gift. I see so many
Mm.
people who buy my turmeric for their parents. And they're like, I know that your stuff works. It's working for me and my husband. So I have to give it to my mom. And I'm making my mom take it. Now she said this about it. And so I just wonder if you had a lot of clients come through who are like, my next generation above needs it. My next generation below needs it. Maybe all of us, because we know our family lineage need it.
Mhm.
And that's how we're going to break those family patterns across elder, our age, and younger to shift the trajectory of the
Yeah.
family or what we're seeing in our parental generation.
What I do know is that you can't change someone. None of us can change someone else. And so we can provide them with the information, but unless like beliefs are so important in the type of work that I do, that unless people are on board and really believing, oh my, could it be that my brain is turning on pain and it's not that arthritis that showed up in the MRI? The degree to which they can believe that impacts how much their body can let go of the pain. So it really, we can't. I see some people saying, "Oh, I want to buy your program for my mother." I'm like, I don't even bother. Like, she's got to want this herself, honestly. So I see that, but I also see, and I really felt this. Like, it stops here with me. This idea that we've all been immersed in, that we need to cut it out or cover it up. It's not dealing with the root cause. And this is starting with me, and I'm doing whatever I can to teach the people who want to hear about it. People who don't want to hear about it, like, they're on their own journey, and that's okay too. But a lot of people just aren't hearing this. And that's why I want to share my story. And that's why I wrote the book.
I love that. I love that you're doing this work. And I've always loved talking to you. I have one final question. I saw a post of yours on social media where you were gardening and harvesting your own carrots. And I
Yep.
remember messaging you and saying, Jane, can I be your neighbor? This is just amazing. I've never seen someone do that. You had this beautiful box of carrots and you were holding them. And I think it was like a rainy day. So how has this work changed your life and shifted key things in your life that to you make yourself the most satisfied and happy?
Well, I love gardening. I loved gardening before as well, but I love it even more now because I understand how important it is to, like, there's life. There's life in the food that we're eating when it's just been alive. The food that's been in a box for a long time, not so alive. And so we can serve our body. I think, like, I want to eat food that's worthy of me. And so that life-giving food is, I love it when I can just go pick a salad from the garden and then eat it a few minutes later, or carrots, whatever. So yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of things in my life that I've learned to say no to things that for my whole life I said yes to things. I did things and then I was resentful because I was the only one that was doing this stuff and wouldn't ask anyone for help. I ask for help now, or I just don't do the things that I don't want to do. I'm selective about the people that I spend time with. I'm selective about what I expose myself to, in terms of media, what I watch on TV or YouTube. I don't watch crazy scary movies anymore, or stuff that's like brings you to an anxiety. Like, why would I want to do that? I just don't want to do that anymore. So there's things like that have changed in my life. But a lot of ways I'm still the same person, but in a lot of ways I've really changed.
I love that. I love that. It's a constant evolution, but I think even bringing more presence into so much of those things that we love, it really changes our quality of life. I've noticed my quality of life keeps improving and shifting the more I do the work. And a lot of people have done my programs and they're like, what's next? I'm like, do the work deeper. That's the work. I don't have a 2.0. What I have
More,
is
please.
double down. Yeah. Yeah. So will you share with everyone who's listening where they can find you, where they can find the book, and what programs and things you offer so they can get engaged with you?
Well, if they're interested in the book, they can go to, they can look up the book on Amazon and go there. But I also have a lot of great extra resources and things. So if you go to my website, thewellnessengineer.com/book, and actually you're going to share a link, Shivani, so people can see that. And if you are listening to this in July of 2025, then I do have a wonderful live 3-day challenge where I'm going to take you on a journey and give you an experience on reducing pain using your brain. I'm going to teach you some skills, and that will be recorded. You can watch it later as well. And there's lots of other great resources. So I'd love for you to be part of this journey. And if you want to follow me on Instagram or YouTube at The Wellness Engineer, Facebook, Jane Hogan Health, and my website is thewellnessengineer.com.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for joining me today. I always love learning from you and hearing your perspectives and hearing your knowledge. And I really appreciate you coming onto the podcast. So everyone check out thewellnessengineer.com. Find Jane Hogan online. She is an incredible human being doing incredible things. And I'm just grateful I get to be her friend. So thank you for joining today.
I'm grateful I'm your friend. I'm so grateful for being here today. Thank you so much, Shivani.
For sure. And for everyone listening, we will see you next week on the Fusionary Health podcast. Stay well, everybody. Thanks for joining me for this episode. Check out our sponsor, Fusionary Formulas, the potent turmeric supplement used by doctors around the U.S. for patients with pain and inflammation. www.fusionaryformulas.com. I'm your host, Dr. Shivani Gupta. For more, visit shivanigupta.com. Subscribe to this podcast in Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Click the follow button or subscribe in any of the apps that you use. That's all I've got for you on the Fusionary Health podcast this week. You have the power to transform your health and achieve vibrant health starting today.